My name is Elise Watkins, and I am recording this video in response to allegations of abuse of said client, John Meister. This is not the first time that we've had an AP case. The first time he did this, the investigator, this was in December of 2024. The investigator that came out was Kimberly Young. So, let me give you some background as to what happened on this last case. In November of 2023, I informed John's sister, the one that called you and the one that called me a bitch and threatened to kill me, that sister, told her that one, I thought something was going on with John, that he was loopy, that just something in his baseline, something in his behavior, something was changing. He was loopy, he was disoriented, and he was sleeping all the time, and just something was wrong. I also told her that, he's having some issues, I think, cognitively, and maybe you want to check his hours or somebody go behind him with these hours. This is in November 2023. I also told her that I was going home in August of 2024 to bury my mother. So, about a week later, he says to me, my sister said that you disrespected me and that you said that I was having cognitive issues and that you were being disrespectful. I said, no, I was doing my job. I was reporting a baseline change. So we were trying to coordinate for my mother's funeral in August. So I asked John, he said his mother was going to come stay. So I'm trying to coordinate to make sure that he's got care and that, it's not going to be a problem me leaving in August. This is 7 months out. So I said, I need to talk to the other caregiver. He told me I was not to talk to her, and she was not to talk to me, and that, no, he told her I didn't want to talk to her, I didn't want to be bothered, and he told her basically the same thing. I said I need to talk to her, see if we can switch schedules and giving you all as much advance notice as I can. So he goes on for 7 months, telling me, you can't talk to the other caregiver, and then he threatened me with hours, and it was threatening and intimidation with, he was going to reduce my hours if you do this. So this was his first threat and intimidation of me. So I'm relatively new. I need to go along with this, but I got a funeral to plan. So I go home in August. Like I said, this went on and on and on. I get home in August. Now, we had an open shift. And I told John, when I get home, I'll fill the shift until we can find somebody. He calls my house in D.C., and disrupts the funeral, very rude, very disrespectful. That Friday, he sent me a text message saying that he had hired somebody for this Friday shift. I said, okay. I come home to find out, one, she's Russian, and two, she doesn't speak a lick of English. None. So, from August, when I got home in August, there was a bag of clothes on the closet floor. He told me that they belonged to his mother, to leave him alone. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. So she started work in August. In November, around the 16th or 18th of November, I came into work. The crap had hit the fan, literally. Apparently, I don't know what happened, but she ran out and quit. He was covered in feces. He was caked in. He was hysterical. I didn't know what was going on. It took me about 2 hours to clean feces from everywhere. I didn't know what had happened. So he told me she got upset and she quit. Obviously. So I got him cleaned up. I have no idea what is going on, what has transpired. So this is on Sunday. I told him, I said, we're going to get a hold of Sharon. I think the next day was a holiday, but anyway, it took us a day to get a hold of her. Sharon Hood is the coordinator at Consumer Directed Washington. So we get her on the phone, and John explains to her what happens, and, I'm listening to what's going on, but, this is the first time hearing about this. She was abusive, and she was doing all these things, and I'm like, okay, well, this is the first time hearing about this. So he goes on to explain to Sharon what had happened. This occurred on that Saturday. Sharon opened the payroll and discovered that this Russian woman and Zeb were clocked in at the same time. So now Sharon is starting to question John's story. So he tells her they switched days. Something is not right. So she takes the report. She gathers the information as you're going to do. So when I spoke to her, how she was coming, she said, hey, I'm exhausted. I've been working on this all day. Trying to get this, I'm trying to dot every I and cross every T. Yeah, okay. She was exhausted. I could hear it in her voice. This is in November. She gets her paperwork and documentation together, and around the second week of November is when Kimberly came. So she comes to interview him. Kimberly is working off the report that she got from Sharon. So when she comes in, Kimberly starts to talk to him and interview him, and it comes out that this woman has been living in there for 4 months behind my back. The clothes in the closet belong to her. Now, mind you, he told me for 4 months those clothes belong to his mother. So not only will he lie, he'll keep a lie going for months. He lied to me for 7 months trying to get home to my mother's funeral. So not only will he lie, he will keep a lie going for months. I had no idea any of this had transpired, and at the time, I didn't know about all of the lies he had told. Of course, it wouldn't take long for all of this to unravel. Kimberly is sitting there interviewing him, and she's looking at the report that she's got from Sharon, and so Kimberly says, well, wait a minute, she was a live-in? And he said no. So she said, well, what was she doing here? Oh, she was just staying here. Something is not adding up. Something is not right. So when I found out about the clothes in the closet, my jaw hit the floor. The story that he told Kimberly was nothing like the story that he told Consumer Director Washington. I was sitting right there when he told Sharon Hood allegedly what had happened. So Kimberly's looking at me, I'm looking at her like, she said, well, at least you didn't try to intervene or do anything. I said, I didn't know anything about it. I knew absolutely nothing. I said, I'm hearing this for the first time. So she continued with the interview, and she asked John, what age type of woman is she? A young woman? He said, no, she was an older woman. Kimberly said, something is not right. This is not the behavior. What you are describing to me, she allegedly did, is the behavior of a woman of this age. Something is not right. So now, at this point, I know he's told Consumer Director one story over a month ago, and he told Kimberly something different. So she closed the interview. I went downstairs with her, and I told her, I said, I don't know what's going on. I didn't know anything about this. This was all orchestrated behind my back. Now that he's lied, I ran into his sister on 12th Avenue and asked her, did you tell him that I was being disrespectful by pointing out and doing my job, that he was having issues, that this was disrespect? She looked at me like I was crazy, like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's lied on his sister. He's lied to me, on me. He's lied on Susan, to her. He's lied to AP. He's lied to Consumer Director Washington. And he lied on his mother. By January of 25, I'm in a tailspin because I had no idea that he was that much of a narcissist, that duplicitous, and that narcissistic. I just couldn't believe it. So Catholic Community Services comes on board with us in February of 25. I had to fill the shift. I had to work all of those shifts to fill in because we didn't have anybody. Well, when Catholic Community Services came on board, this was after all of this had happened. But in December, just at the end of December, I sat down and I told him, I said, every lie that you have told, you've been caught in. You've lied to, and you lied on everybody. I said, but most of all, Susan wanted to talk to me. I had some resources for her, and she was suffering. And you knew that. And you let her suffer. I said, that tells me a lot about you. A lot. And like I said, I maintained, deliberately just maintained a state of calm because I just cannot believe all of this transpired over an entire year. So when Catholic Community Services came on board, I trained the new girl at my expense on the weekends. He messed up the hours. I ended up not getting paid. Wound up living on credit cards, going $8,000 in the hole. That was number one. Number two, because he would not give me or my family a straight answer for 7 months, my cousin ended up paying $350 to change the venue for the service. We're at $8,350 now. We had some issues with the washing machine at his place, so I brought it home and I was doing it at my house. He chews tobacco things or whatever they are. Anyway, long story short, they broke my washing machine. So I have gone above and beyond to help him in every capacity that I can. But I also told him, I said, you have tied my hands for 1 year trying to get you the help that you need. This went on and on and on and on. Numerous incidents of some maybe racially charged cracks. But John was not like that before. But like I said, Catholic Community Services came on board. Both case managers are American black women. They're not African. And I noticed that his behavior toward them was questionable, racist and questionable. And I was not angry with him when I said it, but, I pointed out, you talk to certain people one way, but you talk to them another way, and I just don't think this is appropriate. Well, this started to escalate. He called Catholic Community Services one day and called Monique Taylor Swan an idiot. Went through the whole MAGA jargon vernacular. I was appalled. I'd never known him to be like this. Now, not overtly racist anyway. There was some snide cracks here and there, but just not overtly racist. He gets off the phone, says that they're stupid, they have low IQs. I didn't engage. I didn't say anything. Because I'm old enough to remember the Jim Crow South and seeing my people swinging from trees behind people like that. So I do not engage. I don't abuse. I just listen. I didn't say anything. Well, I called Jackie after that phone call was over, and I apologized to her for the appalling way that she was treated. And mind you, these calls are on a recorded line, okay? And, I told him that I really didn't appreciate this. He accused Monique of mismanaging his hours when he was technically responsible for what had happened. He called his mother and said, I got in a big fight with Catholic Community Services. They're mismanaging my hours. That's not true. Monique can't mismanage hours because Magnus is on the EVV system. A couple of weeks later, he turns around and does the same thing. Nasty, demeaning, dehumanizing, disrespectful of black women again. This time, he got put in his place. They were polite and they were professional, but he got put in his place. Jackie also told him that she had the authority not to renew his contract the following month because he had really gone too far at the mouth. As soon as he hung up, this is what really got me. He called his mother and said, they hung up on me. Looked me straight in my face and lied. I would have been crossing boundaries to have said something while he was on the phone. That would have been inappropriate. But when he got off the phone, with his mother on the phone, what really got me was she said, I'm so sorry these things are happening to you. I feel so badly. The bottom line is these things are not happening to him. He's lying. No one is mismanaging his hours. No one is abusing you. He's accused me of stealing his food, accused me of stealing money, accused Monique of mismanaging hours, accused Jackie of hanging up on him, accused the other caregiver of withholding food. These kind of lies are dangerous, as you can see. He'll drink in the evening, so anything is subject to come out of his mouth. One morning I came to work, came in, and he was just out of it. And he said, where's the dog? I said, what dog? I'm no dog. He said, when you came in this morning, you had a dog. I said, first of all, I need to know how you got out of that bed and into the living room and saw me coming in the front door. Number one, I said, we'll talk about the dog part later. But, I don't know if he is hallucinating sometimes, if he may have thought he was being abused. There are times that, I'm trying to get information from him and, he's incoherent or he just says things that are just so totally off the wall. I'm like, okay, all right. So, like I said, this is what MAGA does. And from what I'm understanding now, there is I knew about the MAGA guy, but, apparently when I'm not there in the evening, they're having, themselves a MAGA black bashing good time. So I'm thinking that is where some of this MAGA rhetoric is coming from, because John wasn't like this before. Like I said, he wasn't openly racist, at least not this way anyway. But, I don't know what to say. He's not abused. I do everything for John. I prepare 18 meals a week for him. So I do all of his meals through Thursday. On Fridays and Saturdays, I pre-prepare his meals, his breakfast, his lunch, and his dinner. When I leave on Wednesdays, all of his laundry is done. All of his errands are run. Everything that he needs is complete. I see to it that he has everything he needs. Recently, John has gone into a tailspin of depression because he refused to get help about the cognitive issues. He had a breakdown the other day, a bad one. And if you're interested in hearing about that, we can talk about that during the interview. But I did want to, when we're going into 15 minutes, wanted to let you know what a prolific liar he is. So, his sister isn't much better. But I'm looking forward to talking to you. I've got plenty to tell you. I've got plenty more to tell you. And I did speak to Nathan Weiss today, and he was kind of in disbelief. But I think if you talk to Nathan, well, I'll let you be the judge. Anyway, we're going into 16 minutes. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.